Hi, Digital Design 3 class. Okay, this is the recording that I'm doing for you after I did for you already how to animate a cube using the animation window and recording it step by step for you. This time I'm going to show you using that animation how we can use multiple cameras with a system called Cinemachine. And with these multiple cameras and the animation together in something called timeline that I have here down below. So I have, first of all, I'm going to show you what I've done already in my demo scene, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. So I have changed my game view and moved it over here so that I can see both my camera view, my scene view, and my game view at the same time, which makes it easier for me when I'm working with cameras. You, of course, can lay this out any way you want. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you so that you can see how my multiple camera shots, which I have 6 of, are following this cube around as it animates across this plane. Okay, so some fairly dynamic camera moves, which I kind of exaggerated to show you how it can happen. Also, you will notice, I'll play it for you one more time, that as the camera gets really close to this wall, it disappears. And I will show you later on why that is and how you can do that too. Or you can let that wall or anything that's close to your camera be inside your camera. It just depends on how you set up your cameras. So you see my wall just appeared here after my camera moved away from it. Okay, so that is all done through this thing here called timeline. You can see down here I have a bunch of camera shots that are all underneath my animation track right here of my cube. So even as I go along, you can see slowly with my playhead, or sometimes called a scrubber, back and forth to see how and which camera is actually being seen at a time as this cube passes through. All right, so first, let's set up Cinemachine. Cinemachine is the main thing we want to do, which is our camera system from Unity. So because it's from Unity, we need to go to our package manager, which I always keep docked here next to my hierarchy. Okay, it is in your Unity registry. Remember, if you go down these little um, uh, gizmo things here on the left-hand side, the first one is everything that's in your project. The second one is in Unity registry, which is like a permanent cache of assets that are always available to you from Unity that enhance your project. And the reason you may not want to download them is because all of them, obviously, because it overwhelms your computer. So you only want to use the ones that you need. But we are going to need Cinemachine today and Timeline. So you also need to make sure that Timeline is installed. And I think it would be, but make sure that you have both of these installed. So go ahead and pause and download both of those into your project. Okay, you should have them installed now. So you can double check them by going into your project and typing in the search. And you can see that I have mine down, but there's updates available. I am not going to update these when I'm in the middle of a project because sometimes these could cause errors. So I always say wait until your project's done and you've already built out at least one version before you try and update because they could cause some errors. Okay. So I have these both downloaded into my project. So now I'm going to go back to my hierarchy and I'm going to show you how you enable Cinemachine. So we always have a main camera that's a default put into our scenes when we open a new scene. And in order to add Cinemachine to it, you need to go over into the inspector and scroll down and add a Cinemachine brain component. So you just click Add Component, type in CIN for Cinemachine, and you'll see all these different things. You want to click on Brain and bring it into here, um, uh, into your into your camera here. And th what this does, the Cinemachine brain, is it actually is like a control booth inside of a television studio. If you guys have taken television with um, the the media major at all for some class, you'll notice that this is where you can switch between different cameras or different um, monitors, for example. So it's like the brain that runs all the other cameras. So you have to have this attached to your main camera in order to activate Cinemachine. And you can tell it's activated because over here in our hierarchy, we have this little symbol, just like this here. It's like a little setting switch with half a camera. And it's blue. And in the older versions, it used to be red, but now it's blue. Okay, so it's here. So we know we have it on our main camera. So this means we can start adding all different kinds of cameras. And you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other cameras besides my main camera here under this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do these one at a time. But first, I'm going to show you how to start timeline because we need a timeline to add these different shots together. So next, let's start timeline. In my hierarchy, what I've done is I've actually added quite a bunch of different empty game objects to separate out and organize my hierarchy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that. I do a double dash and I do it all capitals so I can remember. I'm going to say these are camera shots for demo and for the new timeline. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it's just an empty, and we can tell it's an empty game object, of course, because there's no components in here, and it doesn't matter. You could always click and reset the transform. It's just here, sitting here in your hierarchy, okay? We're not going to use it for anything else but to separate and organize. Okay, so I made one also for timeline, and this is my previous timeline that I'm sitting in right now. I'm going to go ahead and shut this one off so I can show you how to create a timeline from scratch. I'm going to go into timeline here, and let me unlock this first. Okay, and I am going to going up into my window and go under sequencing and go to timeline. And what this will do is it'll open up a timeline window. Now, it'll probably be separate, and I like to dock mine down here, same next to my animation window if you already have your animation window open, or when you open your animation window, because it's a long and skinny panel that has that playhead on it, and it's a lot easier to have it down here. It just kind of works this way easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I'm selected on this timeline here, I'm going to see that this is a new timeline, and I am going to go ahead and click create here. And what that's going to do is a couple of things. So first, let me hit create. Okay, and it's going to save it as something. I'm going to save it as, because it's a one that I'm going to throw away, I'm going to call it trash timeline. Okay. And it's going to save it into, it's good to know where in your project it's going to save it to, in my timeline cube demo folder. Okay. So I'm going to save it here. And if I go over to my project, you can see it here under my sample animation demo. Then I have the cube timeline demo. So I have it here along with my other one. So it's here. All right, so when I go back here, you can see that I have I have it here, and it's on this one. I really don't want it on this one. I might. That's okay. I'll leave it here under this one. But you can see that it automatically created a component for me called the playable director. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can create an empty, for example, here, call it timeline, like I did here. I called mine timeline plane cube, and then did it backwards and dragged this into here after I created a playable director. Or you can do it as I first showed you through the window sequencing, and it will automatically create a playable director for you and put your timeline right in there. So it's accessing this timeline right here. Okay, so it's already there. Now, um, I'm going to show you on my old timeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this component and I'm going to delete this one. And I am going to go back to this one and turn it on and show you how I did this from scratch. Okay. So I have here, right here, recorded. This is my cube. I can change the name to it actually, but this is my cube that has been, my cube animation that has been recorded directly into my timeline. I can change this to an animation clip and save it somewhere else with a different name, but I recorded it right in here like I showed you how last time with the animation window. Okay, and now I'm going to mute this one so we can't see it. Okay, and I'm going to start from the beginning. So now I'm going to add another track. So if I was going to add a different animation, for example, my previous cube animation, I would take my clip from my project and I could just drag and drop it into here. Or I could add an animation track here and then drag and drop my animation clip directly inside of here, or I can search for it here. So I have, a couple of things that I've animated. I could do this and add this here. Okay, so this would be my animation here. So I'm going to delete this one because I already have mine here. I've already added my animation track and added my cube here. And now all I have is just this cube going around and no cameras following it because I haven't attached any camera except my main camera. And I'm going to add one camera at a time and build this up to different shots. So let me get to the beginning of my playhead and let's set up an opening shot somehow for how I want to see this cube go. So I think what I want to do is, because it jumps up right here, maybe I want to have a shot from the bottom here of it jumping up. Maybe I don't want it like that, or maybe I want to give it a little bit more like lift like that. And so this will be my first shot, okay? So now I've lined it up inside of my scene view. And if you remember, the easiest way to get your camera to align to a scene view is Command Shift F on a Mac or Control Shift F on a PC. First, we need to create our camera. Now I've already got this separator here, so I'm going to go ahead and right click and create Cinemachine Camera. I'm going to name it first. I'm going to call it CMV for Cinemachine Virtual Camera, and I'm going to call it Shot 1A because I already have Shot 1. Okay, and I'm going to select it. Oops, let me go to my timeline here. So one thing I need to tell you is that you can create a timeline on any game object, but we're creating like what we call a master timeline. So with my timeline selected, I'm going to click the lock button over here and lock this open. So every time I select something over here, it doesn't try and open a new timeline. Okay, so I'm here on this camera selected, and I'm going to hit Control Shift F, and it's going to align my shot view in my camera. Right here, you can see it's aligned it exactly the way I want it to my game view. Okay, so I have this perfect shot now on my camera, and I'm going to go over a few settings inside the camera here so you can see. And go down in our inspector. These are things that you can adjust as you go down, and I will show you how you can adjust them. Let's look at our game view while we do this. Okay, the solo button is basically to switch between cameras. It's easier after I have a few cameras that I can show you uh, in here that it will only hold one camera open at a time, and it makes it easier to just look at the camera that you're working with instead of a bunch of different cameras. I'll show you this in a second. Okay. Um, you'll leave this on default. You'll leave this here on round robin, and blend hit you'll leave on nothing. Okay. This lens is where it starts to get important for us because this is our field of view. Right now it's set at 60, but we can adjust it in and out, right, to change our field of view as we like for it to change our shot. Okay, this clipping plane, what this means is, if you remember the wall that I told you about earlier, this means what objects you can see objects up to 0.3 meters in front of your camera. If it gets any closer to that, the object disappears. So that's why my wall disappeared earlier when we were looking at my animated scene, because my camera was very close to this wall. Now, the far clipping plane is what objects it can see at 1,000 meters. Now you can always increase this. Let's say you have a city way in the background at 1,000 meters. You can increase this to like 5,000 meters or something else. Dutch is the angle. You can tilt Dutch angles like this with your camera. Always more dynamic in some ways, but here I just wanted to stay at 0. Okay. These are the main things that you want to know. This one here, tracking target, is if I want it to track an object, like a player or something like this. And how do I do that? I just drag it from my hierarchy down in here. Right now, I don't know if I need to track it because I want my camera to be still for my first shot. So I'm not going to go ahead and track it because it's not centered and I want it to stay there while it starts taking off. And then I'm going to switch to a new shot. Okay. So these are basically the settings that you have in your Cinemachine virtual camera. In order to create my first shot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add here a Cinemachine track. So I want to go down and say Unity Cinemachine, Cinemachine track. And here I've got a track all set, and it has my main camera in it because it has the Cinemachine brain in it that's operating all the other cameras. And I'm going to drag my first shot down into my timeline here. Okay, and put it right up against here. Now, I don't want to hold this shot this long, clearly. So if I click on this, I have the option to shorten my shot. And I'm going to shorten it down to about, let's see, we want it to be just to about there. I'm going to drag it out to my playhead there. Okay, so now I want to set up a second camera. And I want this second camera to maybe move up above or something. Let's go look and see how we want this second camera to look here. So I'm going to go into my scene, and my playhead is about where I want it to transition. So let me set up a new camera, and maybe I will have it pass us by here. And then once it gets here, maybe I'll have a camera then switch here and up above. Or maybe I'll just have this camera follow this one. That might be the best ticket. Okay, so I want to set up here the shot in my scene that I want. So if you remember, let's go here and create a second Cinemachine camera. I'm going to call this CMV Shot 2A. Once I do that, I have it selected, and I'm going to then move it to this scene view by hitting Command or Control on a PC, Shift F. Once I reselect it here. Now, you can see it doesn't look like it changed, but it actually did change. The reason is because I'm over my initial shot here and it's showing my first camera. And this is where that solo button comes in handy. So if you turn on your solo button, then you can see exactly where this cube is in your second shot. It's only showing me my second camera here because I have it on solo. So this is why this is kind of nice. So I want to go ahead and I like this shot and I'm going to carry it through, maybe have it follow the cube here this time. So I'm going to give it a follow by adding the cube as a tracking target. Oops, maybe I should just do it this way. Do it by cube. Okay. So now this should follow our cube here. Let's see if we can check. It's hard to tell right now. Need to make sure that, let me turn this off. And now we have our cube in here and we want to go down and I want to see if there's any other thing that I need to do. Game view, position, I want it to follow. Okay, it's added a Cinemachine follow component. And so now this should actually follow my cube. You see how it follows here? I don't know if I'll love this shot or not, but let's see. I'm going to go ahead and drag it down and put it into my timeline. I may turn off the follow shot on it. And let's see what we see. Turn on my camera here. Yeah, I don't really like the way it's following here. It's doing something funky. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to take out my follow. I'm going to say none. And then I'm going to remove component, or I can just turn it off. I think I'll just turn it off in case I want to add it later. Okay, so now I have this shot, if I look here, but there's a really rough transition between my first and my second shot. It's like, oh, what happened? And plus it's not in the right position now because it's switched around. So let me put it in the right position. Let's select this, Control select F, and make sure now that it is in the right position. Yes. Okay. So it's pretty close to where I want it. I think I'll transition again here, or maybe I'll zoom in a little bit closer, but I think my shot will end right around here. So I'll switch to another camera then. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to zoom into my shots here. I'm going to fix the transition between these two shots. So you can see it just jumps. And what I want to do is I want it to smoothly blend between these two. And it's very simple to do. You just move one track into the next, and you can adjust how far they move into each other for how smooth they are. So now you can see my first shot smoothly transitions into my second shot here. And right about here is where I'm going to go ahead and add my third camera. So you just continue on the exact same way by adding another Cinemachine camera, setting up your third shot, right? And then aligning it to your view. Like this one, I'll probably pull out a little bit. I'll have it zoom out and maybe up because it's going to go straight across. These are completely different from my first ones that I did. But so then let's say like here, add another Cinemachine camera, call it CMV3, shot 3A. Okay. And while it's selected, I'm going to say Command Shift F. Okay. Can't see it there, but you can as soon as I go here. And I'm going to drag this shot down into my timeline. I'm going to put it over the top of this one. And I'm actually going to pull this side out, move my playhead a little. So it has a nice smooth transition from one to the other. You can see it over in my camera view. And right about there, I'll switch to another shot. So I'll just shorten this up. So you can see how easy it is to go ahead and add cameras using Cinemachine to your scene. Now, when you're setting up your characters for your cut scene, you can start off with using the cameras and doing like a nice opening scene and then adjust your characters' positions afterwards. Or in the next video, I'm going to show you how to animate your characters using timeline. And you can use the same actual timeline to animate your characters on it. So this master timeline can be used over and over again. Okay. And when you just want to get distracting things out, you can mute them behind the scenes. Let's say you have three different characters, you can mute your other two characters while you're working on one character. Same thing with the cameras or different things. So let's say I wanted to mute this animation, just mute it, and then this animation would no longer be playing as my cameras are moving around. Okay. Uh-oh. Um, all right, so that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.